Running never did much good. Hiding doesn't last forever. You can't run faster when it's you you're running from. So you throw your hands up like doves to the setting sun. Somewhere down the stars are falling like dews upon a thin black veil. You'll find the mysteries enthralling. 5 seconds seems like 5 billion years. 10,000 galaxies away, yet still so near.
Welcome to Karen Holton's podcast. Karen permanently lost 178 pounds and found happiness and success by following her own advice. She has now developed that advice into the quantum health transformation: heal, evolve, and thrive. Karen's website offers a free webinar workshop series, and you'll also find tools, methods, and practices to assist you to become the change you want to see in the world. She believes that we are all connected. Heal the planet by healing yourself. Connect with Karen at her website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, and through Facebook at facebook.com/quantum health transformation. Now for the podcast.
Today I want to talk a little bit about my inner guru. You may have read some of my recent articles published in Sybil magazine for the Spirit and Soul of Woman, or perhaps on my Facebook page, or my blogs. I talk about how we each have inside of us an inner guru. Actually, we have all the experts. We have a full team inside, but it takes a certain practice of life or lifestyle which enhances the unification of body, mind, and spirit. I call the work soul work, yet at the same time, there is no soul work without temple work. And temple work is looking after the physical, what we consider the physical aspects of ourselves that are required to be of such matter that they can hold energy at the higher frequencies. Instead of having them just zip through, they can stick and they can change our DNA and they can create us into something amazing. Inside of us, we have a shaman. We have all kinds of teachers. We have an inner guru, and I am so blessed to have discovered my inner guru. Just as a side note, some people might consider what I'm talking about as being very similar as those who have a personal relationship with either the Christ or another deity. This could also manifest in that way. So remember, our amazing gifts come from universal love energy that rains down on all of us. Good, bad, in between, doesn't matter. It rains down on all of us, and we're constantly bathed in this glory. And some would call it Holy Spirit, and there are probably lots of other names out there for it. But as we are bathed in this, it is dependent on our life situation, where we're at in life, and what we are allowing ourselves to see, that creates an environment where we start to look after the temple body differently so that we can hold more frequency. And the more frequency we hold, the more we understand in universal terms. And when we step back from the microcosm or the mesocosm into the macrocosm, we are able to start to see reality, the present moment, what we're capable of, so much more. It's basically like gazing from the perspective of angels. I gotta tell you, my universe is beautiful. My universe is lovely. And one of the lovely things about my universe is getting in touch with my inner guru. And we all have one. And so as I succumbed to and dealt with in my own way my ascension symptoms, I started to keep track of what seemed to benefit me more. And I started to string like precious pearls on a necklace, an internal necklace that no one can take away from me, of these precious, precious pearls that are made up of wisdoms, understandings, knowings, states of consciousness. And they allow me to have my inner guru. So let's get down to what is it my inner guru does for me. Well, the first noticeable thing is my guru and I are one when I allow that to happen. And it could be a state that I could stay in all day. That's the other thing about frequency, is we'll get it and we'll lose it, we'll get it and we'll lose it. But eventually what happens as we start to follow our intuition more and develop the spiritual and physical interreaction that needs to develop, we can hold frequency for longer and longer. And I have been around people in the past few years who could not hold frequency at all. And just from spending time within a close enough proximity to me, and the funny thing about it is it can be on the internet or on the phone, and it seems to work the same way. So when I'm around or we're influencing each other, I'm learning from them, they're learning from me. But what happens is they're able to hold frequency for longer and longer periods of time. Unfortunately, they need to learn how to raise their own frequency, and so there's a limit to how much of that I can do, depending on what the person means to me, I suppose, in all honesty, as to how much frequency I'm willing to share with them. But everybody truly means so much to me that it is my hope and desire to be able to hold enough frequency to be able to share it with others, to help them with their journey. So my inner guru is like a teacher, a gentle, loving teacher who teaches me in several ways. I want to use the word internal language, but that's not really true. It is energy that my conscious mind puts together as words. And it's interesting, I used to write it all down before I had confidence that it was all with me always. And I used to just scribble, try to keep up with these understandings and these lessons. And then I got to the point where I didn't have to do that anymore because it's all in there. Our subconscious is just this amazing factory and keeps track of so much and puts it all together ready for us. It's kind of like having maid service in your head that you don't know about, because it's always tidy and you don't realize someone else is working in your favor, right? It's very cool. Getting back to how you know when you're with your inner guru, I want to use a little analogy or a parable here of how the concept first arrived to me that this would be possible for me and was possible for me. I had a vision, and in my vision there was a king sitting on a throne, and he was very clean, and his garb was light textured fabric, just loosely draped, and very beautiful, clean king with a crown and a beard and a mustache. And in my vision, he didn't have a particular race per se, but I do remember his hair was not intensely curly, but fairly curly, and his beard was dark. But anyway, he's sitting on this beautiful throne, and of course it's raised up higher than the main ground area where commoners would stay. And he gazes out. He's got a staff in one hand, and his other hand is on the arm of his throne. And he's looking out into everything that happens on this planet. And all through time, space, everything. He's watching everything. And there in front of him, below the throne, is a child. It's a really sad-looking child. It's dirty. It's wearing rags. It doesn't know that it has value. And it's standing there staring with awe at the king. I'm sorry, this always makes me a bit emotional, so I a little bit apologize because I'm Canadian and cry a little bit because it's how I am. And the little child, the king beckons for the little child to come to him. And the child who is not yet steeped in the foolishness of political rituals and cultural expectations, he bounds up to the king, and the king lifts him up, the little child, just as he is, so dirty, and sits him on his lap. And the child then gazes out into all things with the king and notices what's going on in the world and the to's and fro's of mankind and humanity, and all through time and all through everything that's ever happened on this planet or ever will happen. And they gaze out in wonder. After a little while, the child farts, and you would expect maybe something negative to happen, but instead the child looks up at the king, and the king gives out a little laugh, and the child has a little laugh, and they go back to watching the affairs of humanity. And it's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful, because the child is still exactly the same, and the king is still exactly the same, but there's perfect union. And that's what it's like when we find our inner guru, and we all have one. And so what my inner guru does is it teaches me things. In my realm of reality, my guru is male and I'm female. But in reality, there is neither gender even is significant in this experience. And I can be in observer mode simply just by being present. When I'm fully present, everything changes. My emotions all calm down, and my mind becomes very receptive to wisdom. And it's like being the dirty child on the king's knee. And I'm able to look out through the eyes of my observer and notice. And primary, up front and center, the disturbing part of the experience is I'm able to see me from a different perspective. And that really takes great courage to stay with that process. And I've had a life of behaviors because I have whatever, I don't want to create too much story around this, what I experience, but for communication purposes, I'll just say this situation where thoughts just come out my mouth. There is no filter there. There's no space. There was no space created where I could think about what I wanted to say, or think about something maybe from more than one perspective before I said that. That was never in my realm of reality. Didn't even know that was possible. And also lack of concentration, lack of focus on any one thing. And so, like, for instance, reading has always been really difficult for me, even before the botched surgery, because after that I lost the ability to read, but I got it back. But that's another story. And so I couldn't read stories to my children because I could concentrate for the first page, and after that, it was just could not make sense of the markings on the paper, literally. So anyway, people would often feel justified in humiliating me, tricking me, whatever, throwing me off my balance to try to remind me that this was not always appropriate in all situations. And I knew it. And often didn't even know what it was I had done. So without someone showing me, explaining the connection to what happened, to what the part I played in it, I didn't know it was even there, right? So it was very bizarre, and so I became a bit socially awkward and feeling uncomfortable socially, but I liked people, so I kept trying. But anyway, so this is going on, like we're talking 50 years of this, right? So anyway, after I was 50, when I started, that's about just before that, when I started getting my serious ascension symptoms, what happened was I knew this was happening, and I said, because I had some symptoms of delirium after the botched surgery, I had trouble communicating with people and understanding what they were saying to me. There was such an intense disconnect, made communication and certainly social acceptability went right out the window. But that's another story. So getting back, I needed help. I asked inside myself, I did a prayer. I said, can I please have a way of learning to modify my own behaviors without being humiliated? And that was, I said, if you could do that for me, I would use that to my best advantage. Please, I'm willing to learn. And very soon after that, I was in a restaurant with some other people and just carrying on as I normally do. And all of a sudden, whammo, I went into observer mode. And I was so aware of how loud I was speaking. And people are always telling me to pipe down and I'm an overmodulator or whatever, but I mean, I never knew what that looked like. No one pointed out someone else and said, okay, you've got the same situation as that, and so how does that make you feel, and how could you modify? Like, that never happened to me before, but my observer gave it to me, and I was, holy smokes, so I knew how loud I was, and also how the subject matter was just crap, and these people were trying to eat their meal, like, why would they want to listen to that, and what was I doing? And then it took me weeks to unpack. Well, no, months, even years to unpack. I'm still unpacking the information around that experience because I don't want to be like that anymore. I understand it's a gift and all that jazz, but come on. Well, I'm trying to be professional here to some degree. That behavior seems to alienate me socially, and if I can't communicate with the people I want to communicate with, then I need to change something, right? So I'm just taking full responsibility and working on that. So I've gotten to the point where quite a lot of time I can hold my tongue, quite a lot of time, because I can go into observer mode, thank God, and then look at the bigger picture of what's going on. Now, some people would say, oh, you're overthinking it. I would never spend all that time on that. Well, yeah, and that's why they're not progressing, maybe, okay? I mean, we all have our own journey and our own lessons, but just saying, this stuff is not easy to look at. And only by looking at it. And then when I would fail, my observers, such a sweetheart. Talk about a real live living doll. This thing never puts me down, guilt trips me, makes me feel bad. It's always positive, like, oh, I'm so proud of you. You done your best. It's like the perfect parent on the inside, and I can have it all the time. This is what your inner guru can do for you, and you have one. You just perhaps haven't discovered it yet, or have discovered it, but you're hung up on how you're not progressing. So that's what quantum health transformation's all about. It's about offering tools and methods so that we can hold more frequency in the temple body and make use of these incredible, beautiful tools. And there's so many. Like I mentioned, we have an inner shaman. We have inner everything. We have internal financial advisor. We got everything. And it's all now in the presence of the now. And we go back and we look back on things because we use them as tools, because once we glean the gems and the lessons and the wisdom out of those experiences, they evaporate. You don't never think of them again. They are gone, and for all intents and purposes, they are gone. And that energy's been removed from the body because it's done its business. And so you can imagine an accumulation of not dealing with any of this stuff. What it does, it makes you grow old, it makes you sick, it makes you weak, it makes you pray. And I'm not talking about communicating to God. I'm talking about PREY. There is still the old paradigm out there of dog is going to eat the other dog or the predator is loose. You know, I don't want to shake you up too much, but new paradigm doesn't exist, which is awesome because the more time you spend in new paradigm reality, the fewer incidences or you wouldn't even be aware. And it's not like hiding your head in the sand like an ostrich. It is more like it doesn't exist in your reality. There are two realities, actually more, but we won't get into that right now. It's another story. Existing all right now, right here. And we shift from one-dimensional reality to another simply through awareness. It's so easy. It's unbelievable, but it's about holding the frequency to do so. So I'm going to be quiet now because I've said enough. I just want to say that is the best way I can explain to you what your inner guru can do for you. Go out there and follow your heart and your intuition and follow all the shiny things. If you're attracted to crystals, or it doesn't matter, there is no wrong route because you will learn. Some of them you will learn faster than others, but you will learn, and that's what it's about. And the ascension symptoms will come and you will look at them as blessings one day. Even though you can barely tolerate being alive at certain points during your ascension, when you come through it, what you get is so precious that you actually will be grateful for those experiences. So live long, be happy. I love you.
Lion, only makes you hurt. Denying only makes it worse. Love and surrender seem the fastest way to bring an end to bitter, painful days. Somewhere, John, the stars are falling like jewels upon a thin black veil, and you will thrill to hear your calling. 5 seconds seems like 5 billion years. 10,000 galaxies away, yet still so near.